So welcome back to Let's Talk About That. We have Suzanne Hopson today. How are you doing, Susan?
I am doing really well, Art. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for taking the time to be here. So introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now.
I would love to. I'm actually starting a new business.
Oh, okay.
I started the business about 7 months ago. I think they call us solo entrepreneurs or
Solopreneurs.
solopreneurs. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the new terminology. And so I am a one-woman show currently,
Okay.
and I am specializing in helping businesses scale. So the sweet spot for the businesses that I work with is between 2 and 11 million in revenue. And I like to call them visionaries, but the CEO, owner, leader of the company is typically in that space where they need to scale and don't necessarily have the funds to hire on a full-time COO. So there's a lot of fractional work that I coordinate for that visionary in the interim, and then hopefully replace myself in a year or two, continue to coach the business through the scaling, and do this with multiple businesses at the same time.
So it's more like a virtual C-suite in a way. Like, so yeah,
Yes.
if you don't know what that is, it's basically what she just said. It's more so putting the right players in the company that help lead certain areas within. So yours is specifically within a COO, within ops, but you also have a background in marketing as well.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
And so I've been in businesses and running businesses for well over 20 years and began really in the sales and marketing realm. So that's where I got my feet wet and worked my way through the ranks and held different positions in development, asset management, operations, mostly in the real estate sector. But did a few stints in radio and some crazy stuff along the way that gave me some outside industry experience and more well-rounded. But yeah, I do have that marketing passion in the back.
Well, I mean, we're all marketing every day, right? Like
True.
we're all selling ourselves. We're distributing whatever solutions or whatever. Sometimes we're even marketing internally.
Totally.
Like just getting buy-in with an idea or scope. And is that something you typically see when like you're going into organization? Is it's not really just cut dry and simple, right? There's usually a lot to it.
There's a lot to it.
So can you touch on what is the fractional development? Like how does that work? Just kind of explain that. So if someone is like, if they're trying to say, hey, is that the right thing for me? Like what is fractional? What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, typically a business owner is going to be at that point where they are unable to get it all done now. They can't do it all themselves. They're more working in the business and they don't have the time to step out and really gain clarity on where they want to take the business next, which is the scaling component. And there's a lot of other things happening. Maybe they have high turnover with their employees and staffing and they don't know why. Perhaps there's just a lot of ideas that are being put out on the table that aren't getting to the execution stage. And so they're sort of stuck at this place of growth. And that's where I come in. And I think that, part of the fractional beauty of this is that you don't have to take on that full payroll and still can reap the benefits of having someone side by side helping you in the business so that you can step out and really, take the next steps that are necessary for an owner to be able to do. And that incremental time, or I know you do because you're in it as well, when you just can't get it all done anymore.
So the business design component.
Yeah.
So especially when you're in the work.
You're in the work.
You're in the work. And as a business owner, it's hard to escape that 100%.
Right.
It's very difficult because in a lot of ways, especially if you're a leader, you have to know what's going on. You can't just be above just, looking at it from a 3,000 foot view. Sometimes you have to go down on the ground and see what's
Totally.
happening, right? So that's where someone like you steps in, and yeah, you can go in and see what's happening on the ground, but then you can step back and let the owner continue to kind of navigate
Mhm.
inside, but then also give another visionary, a higher scope of what's happening across the whole organization.
Mhm.
So, okay, so how do you get to that point? How did you get to that point of being able to have that type of skill set? Of like, so I think that's interesting because as I know for myself, I kind of do somewhat of what you're doing to a certain aspect of it.
Mhm.
um, I know how I got there, and it's not like usually a straight path. There's a lot of components. So where did you like start to, to acquire this type of, um, I guess I would say vision? It's more vision,
Mhm.
that you can come in and actually go into not just your own organization, but you can go into other organizations and do it. Like,
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Okay. That's
Yeah, yeah.
exciting. That's exciting stuff. So, yeah, I struggled like many people do on determining, what the best, I call it seat was for me in life, what seat I was going to sit in. And so, I would have people give me feedback. They'd say, you should probably own your own business. You just have that way about you, and you're great at building teams, and you're really great at the execution part, and you're certainly getting people on fire about whatever it is you're talking about. And I struggled with that for many years. As I think many people do when they take that jump. And part of that is never done it before. So there's a fear of failure. The second part is that really what I want to be doing? And I think when I got into the C-suite and began to develop myself in different seats, and the skill sets started to sort of rise to the top, it became clear that I didn't necessarily want to be in the number one seat.
Uh-huh. It's not
Um,
always the best
it's
seat.
not always and
It's tough, yeah.
yeah, and there was a real need in the organization I just came from, and in organizations that I deal with today, to have a second in command, to have someone that you can go to for some of the things that do not come naturally to a visionary.
Mhm.
The visionary in my mind, or the owner, the CEO that's growing and scaling their business. They typically are a person, and this isn't for everybody. I mean, there in rare cases are people that are more COO oriented and CEO oriented. But for the most part, if you really want a company to fly, your CEO needs that time to be able to work on the bigger picture, those big relationships. And it's really hard for them to do when they are in the business handling, a leadership team, or hiring and staff development. To your point, I think the CEO that we all respect is the one that does know what they're doing and
Mhm.
is on the ground and is with their people. But they are the ones that also hold the culture, and they have to be in tune with that. So they can't be removed from that at all.
Right.
But this is more of that day-to-day decision making, high level decision making, and it requires trust.
Mhm.
It requires, that person to have that skill set, been there, done that. And if they don't, which is what's really cool about being in a COO fractional seat, is people that do. Like, I
Mhm.
readily admit that in my toolbox, I have the marketing, I have all of that, but I'm not a finance person,
Mhm.
so I have fractional CFOs on
Yes.
dial if I need to bring them into the mix to assist. And that's what this is about. It's how do we go into a business, really understand and listen to what the business owner is trying to accomplish. And again, it's going to be tailored, like you said before. It's not just one size fits all.
Right.
But how can we apply some really practical practices that are tried and true,
Mhm.
to provide structure and stability while the company's growing and that CEO is taking off?
Right, and identifying what obstacles they're facing,
Yes.
because that's usually the issue that is happening.
Yes.
And sometimes that is, kind of related to, it may be, emotional. It may be, like afraid to say, "Well, I don't have a specific component within my organization," and that's where a fractional, a C-suite person can come in and really, not to say like you don't care, but there's not the same emotional attachment with the business. It's coming in and saying, this is how we get better. Right.
Yes.
This is how we get better. And we're going to have to do things that are do the things that are going to make us better. And some of you may not like it, but I promise you it's going to be great. Right. So it's one of
Exactly.
those things. So,
Yes.
and have the vision, not of the heart, but of what's actually happening in plain sight. So that's really cool that you look at some of bringing in the skill sets of, what you know, and you're within your network, within your teams, you can bring in whatever's necessary to help them scale. So a lot of beliefs, I believe sometimes it's there's also knowing when to scale up or scale out and being able to identify that. And that's interesting because when some businesses, you feel like you have to have higher level expertise, and sometimes that's not the case. You just need mentorship to help guide you. That's where kind of you come in, and you could say, well, I think you may need to scale out this way because you're missing certain components within your organization, right?
Yes.
And that's where you kind of come in and bring that in. So I'm sorry, I'm painting the picture here.
No,
but this is,
I love it. I love it.
That's how I'm seeing it.
Yes. Yes. It's really understanding what the owner wants to accomplish.
Right.
Sometimes that's not clear.
Yeah.
They
Sometimes they don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they don't know. Right.
And so, part of that discovery is really digging in and finding out what they want to accomplish. And it may be to scale out. It may be just to shore up what they have. Maybe they're ready to exit. Maybe they're ready to sell their business. And so what does that look like? Yeah. What
does the acquisition plan look like?
Exactly.
Like there's a buildup that has to go into that. So what's interesting is, you've carried the president hat before.
Yes.
Within an organization. And I think that's it's interesting to, like, in your career and experience in life, to say, hey, I started at a point where, I may have tried and figure out to discover what I'm supposed to be. And you had built the credibility and trust to carry a president hat within an organization. That's a path. That's a path. So, and not one that you started. It's within an existing organization, which is way different.
Yes.
Than starting your own business. Because you can start a business and say, hey, I'm the president of the world.
Right,
you can carry whatever title you want, right?
Yeah, true.
Like, does that qualify you to be a president? Maybe. But if you earn that seat, it's a little bit different because you've been trusted to go through the ranks, and you don't just shoot up from the mailroom to the president. That doesn't happen. And there's a lot of proof. So let's talk about some of the obstacles you kind of faced, because there is a path to get to that level, which I know across that journey, there's a lot of experiences and skills that you gain to get to that position. Let's talk about that. Like, what are some of the things that you face when you're climbing?
A lot of failure,
a
lot of falling down. I've made a lot of mistakes. And I'm older now and wiser. I know that's an old thing to say. I don't feel old. I feel like I'm 12, but
you're just starting.
Right. I know.
Right. Yeah.
But part of that, what we call road rash has been really helpful to learn from. And so one of the things that I've done is try never to make the same mistake twice. I'm going to still make mistakes. I'm going to make them tomorrow, today, next week. But I think that one of the things that I kept doing was kept looking at what was my why, what was my purpose in everything that I was doing. It always came back to a very simple phrase, making a difference.
Yeah.
And so it didn't matter really the hat. What mattered was if I walked into an organization and I had the ability, which was the breadth and the leash to be able to do that, then that's where I would make my impact. And people noticed. I began over time to be able to curate that marketing of myself, which I think is also really important for people that are trying to climb the corporate ladder or trying to do something different than what they've done before, is how to speak very powerfully about your strengths and to really lean into those strengths.
And the confidence to speak on that.
Really. Yeah. I mean, and I've had so many mentors and people that have influenced me in my life, but one of the things that is very consistent across the board with people that are successful is that they know their strengths and they can speak to them. And they have a purpose, they have a why, and they're really clear about it, and they're non-negotiating about it. There are some visionaries that I would not do business with because they don't have the same value set. And I would not be successful working with them.
Because it's just not a good fit.
It's not a good fit.
Right.
And so, we could talk for hours and hours about all this stuff, but I think that, in getting to the president's seat, it was not easy. I don't have a college education. That put me in a whole different arena of having to prove myself. And I also don't have a high finance background. For a president to be able to manage the P&L, I had to learn, and I'm a continuous learner. I read books all the time. I read at least 50 books a year. That's my goal. And I do that so that I can stay adaptable and I can stay in the game. So all of those obstacles are in the rearview mirror. And as a president and being responsible for a P&L, much like a business owner, and responsible for people and culture and all of it.
That's a big one.
It's a big one, and a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I had a great ride with it. And I think that even in that, in the successes and failures of being in that role, it taught me that I could do this, and that the bigger impact is to share it with even more companies instead of just one. So
there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah. So that's really the unlock is, there's only so much good you can do in one position when you can take it to the road and touch everyone.
Yeah.
Right. So
like you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's important to kind of accent the whole concept of, like you said, hey, I didn't have a college degree, so I had to fight. I had to fight to learn. I had to grow on my own. I had to go through things that most people may not experience because maybe I didn't even have the same network of friends at the time.
Exactly.
You're just on your own. You're figuring it out. And people notice exceptional people, so as you were climbing, people saw you and saw your tenacity, saw how much you believed in worth, probably value. That was probably your major component, not just to the company, but also for yourself, because you're proving to yourself that you're worth it too. Right. So that's one of those things. And that's one of the things we all kind of fight with ourselves with. Am I worth it?
Yeah.
Am I worth it? All the time. So, and that's with all the businesses out there. If you find a CEO or president out there that just has it all together and they're like, hey, yeah, I know how everything works, they're full of crap. Okay.
Totally.
They don't know what they're doing sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do, because that's how business, it's a game of chess. That's all it is. There's moves everywhere. Right. And you need to have the right people beside you to help guide you to the right path. So whether it's your fractional CFO or COO or CTO, right?
Yes.
You have people that shine in certain areas and they have 20 plus years of experience in the space that you don't have.
Exactly.
And that's what makes you powerful.
Yes.
Right. So like the humility, sometimes that gets in the way where you're too humble to ask for help. Pride will get you, but CFOs out there, don't be afraid to spend your budget on growth. That's important. Don't be a tightwad. That's important because innovation comes at a cost, right?
Totally.
And it's worth it, right? So how important so let's jump back into marketing a little bit.
Sure.
Because I feel like marketing is important in all aspects of like when it deals with visibility for a organization or even yourself. So if, say, you're not a solopreneur, entrepreneur, or business owner, and you're a professional listening today, marketing yourself is important too, as that self-dialogue, right? Even just kind of reflecting back on like, hey, who am I? What am I doing?
Mhm.
And then getting feedback from others. Is that something? Because I know you have a lot of experience with that, especially in real estate. In your space, you're talking to consumers that are looking for a place to live. Why would they choose? Like, so some of that's marketing is very important for people to make a choice.
Mhm.
So is that something that you continue to do now? And how valuable is that for an organization that is not really doing it?
It's incredibly important. In fact, there's a business practice that I follow. It's an entrepreneurial operating system. Many
The
people are
EOS.
familiar with it. Yes,
Yep.
EOS. There's BOS. There's a combination of a lot of
Yeah.
things that have been put together in this type of infrastructure, and it really applies to any business. And one of the key components is your marketing niche and your messaging, as well as being able to state very clearly what your purpose is. And I think all of those things are extremely important. And it begins with you. If you are the person that's representing yourself in whatever you're trying to accomplish, moving into the next role, owning your own business, being able to market yourself it's a key attribute. If you're not doing it, if you're not marketing and doing it correctly, you're going to fail. It's that
Mhm.
critical.
So the what, why, and who, like those are the
Yeah.
major components.
Hmm.
We, as business owners, we sometimes miss the mark on the target because we haven't asked ourselves that. You
Yeah.
can scale out, you can be really broad, you can touch a lot of people and help a lot of people, but who are you serving? Like, and what is it they need? And why are they even doing it? Like, those are really important things. So, do you have a set program when you kind of go in, surgical, okay, importance of a program? So, is there a certain thing you look for? So, let's say I was coming, like saying I'm going to hire you in and say, hey, I need a fractional COO. What would be the first question you would ask me?
What are your pain points right now? What are you experiencing that is making you think that you need to hire a fractional COO?
So, why are we talking?
Yeah. Why
Right?
are we talking
Yeah.
right now? Because it is a different answer every time.
Mhm.
And I may not be, again, like we talked about, the right answer. There's a specific list of questions and issues that I'm hoping to tease out
Mhm.
of the conversation. And once that happens, it's easy to see which direction we'll need to go in for me to be of assistance.
So you're doing a lot of coaching too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Again, and I think by virtue of how I'm networking this, people are already at the point of the
Mhm.
need and they know
They
it.
know it, right?
So I'm not cold calling per se on people and saying, I think you might need my services.
Right.
It's people that have heard of what we do and then are saying, okay, I think I'm ready for this, or I'm not sure. And I need to work through this conversation.
So that's the marketing component as well,
Mhm.
is identifying the symptoms
Yes.
of you need to ask for help.
Yes.
Identifying the symptoms. And that's why part of this, like even on the show here, that's what we're talking about, some of the things. If you're feeling some of that, hey, I feel lost in a certain area, it's okay to ask for help.
Totally.
Ask for help because it'll kill you. It will, and you will fail. So that's part of the reason why we're always looking at, identifying your own pain points too.
Yes.
And the content, the marketing, we call it marketing, but it's more so educating.
Yes.
It's educating to identify the symptoms of the pain that you're having. It's almost like healthcare, right?
It is like
if you
healthcare.
feel
It's a good way
pain,
of looking at it. Yeah.
if you feel something hurts, you probably should look into that
Exactly.
because there's probably a problem. You shouldn't just let it go because it can lead to something worse.
Totally.
Right? So that's why, as we look at if you're hurting in sales, you have a problem with probably your identity, your brand,
Mm-hmm.
and you have an issue with actually probably being visible because no one sees you.
It's about the visibility. In
Visibility,
many
right.
cases, you might have a great product. Everything's packaged correctly, but no one knows that you're there.
Right.
And I think that, if people don't have that expertise of how to market, they don't know even the first place to start.
So what would your advice be to someone that they have no marketing background and they don't see the value of it because they don't know it? What would
Talk to
they
someone
do?
who has that expertise. Hello. No, totally.
Just
I mean,
saying.
I'm right.
Yeah.
So no, absolutely. I think it's imperative. Your network and your people, and I'm not just talking about your family. Like having your family look at your website is great.
Oh yeah.
It really
They
is.
can be brutal too.
They can be brutal, but you need someone that has expertise in this, that's done it repeatedly, like yourself.
Yeah.
And that will give you the honest feedback. And, typically a lot of this advice is free.
Yeah.
People will have a conversation and tell you what they think. If there's an ongoing relationship and services are rendered, great. But for the most part, there are a lot of people that will give you the straight skinny. But you have
to be okay to accept it.
Yeah.
Don't have, it's not hurting your feelings.
Exactly. It's
you have to get past that, especially if you're running a business. Guess what? You're going to get hurt. People are going to hurt you. They're going to tell you things you don't want to hear. And that's okay, because perspective is powerful. You got to be able to listen to that information that, hey, if someone says, hey, you need to spend some money on this, whether it's not, they're not trying to sell you. They're just saying like, hey, you need to freshen up your site, and you need to, not just your website, but your brand.
Yeah.
Focus on your brand. A lot of people get their websites mixed up with marketing, and that's not that. That's not the same thing. That's just it's a utility to broadcast your brand. It's a way to connect with your audience in a more focused, intimate type of conversation versus social media. Social media, we all use it. LinkedIn. Yeah. LinkedIn is our probably tool of choice to focus on our personal brand and what we're doing, and being able to talk to someone that knows the platforms and create a marketing strategy and a content strategy. Those are two different things, and how to execute that. Sometimes you don't need to learn how to do that because you need to focus on running your business.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So if you're trying to learn a whole new skill set, think about all the time and the money you're losing trying to learn something that someone else has already mastered and can help you scale out.
Totally.
Even if it's temporary, right?
Yes.
You're leasing expertise.
Exactly.
You're leasing, maybe not forever. Maybe they'll help build out your own team. Fractional.
That is the same concept. And yes, I think again, that you have to be ready.
Right.
And once you are, the answers are out there.
So do you go in and you identify like, okay, well, you need a whole team that you don't have, and we need to build that team?
Yes. I have one person I'm speaking with right now who has, scaled this, 2-person company to now a 20-person company. And all of the people that she has in the organization are, part-time people. And she needs to build a leadership team. And she's not sure that any of these people are ready for that or want that. And, like a lot of them want to stay part-time and they like the gig.
Like their flexibility.
Yeah. And so, there's a lot of instances where that occurs. I belong to another group called Vistage, where, it's a group of 18 to 20 other business owners, CEOs from all industries. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. They're all grappling with the same stuff.
Right.
People issues, vision issues.
It's all the same.
Issues. It's all the same. No matter where you go. And one of the things that we talk about all the time is how to get that expertise in and being willing to do that. It's great to be amongst people that are willing to do that. If you're not, then we're probably not going to.
And you have to let go. You have to give up the control sometimes.
Exactly. You do.
Because if you're talking to someone that's in your organization and you have not been doing it well, it's okay. You probably need to just let it go for a minute and listen. So using dynamic listening, which is really important, really be able to feel out what is necessary for your organization and listen to all the different perspectives.
Mhm.
So there may be, so like say with this new client that you're working with, there's going to be probably even other components, especially since you dropped the part-time side of it. I know where some of the pain points are with that,
Mhm.
and that's just availability.
Yeah.
Availability, and when you need the availability,
Yes.
that's one of the battles. So as you're scaling out a leadership team, you're going to have a full-time leader
Mhm.
coordinating and like being able to create something, even if they're all part-time. There's going to be a culture shift.
Yes.
It's going to be a culture shift. And, that's one of the other things I think is really important is, as you go into where you're at right now, you've already dug into the component of building cultures and
Mhm.
understanding people.
Mhm.
Because really that's what it boils down to, right? Is
Totally.
having the right people in the right positions that are passionate about
Mhm.
what they're doing,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So right now, as you go in, sometimes the owner or whatever, this president, the CEO, whoever you're talking to, sometimes their passions don't align with the culture,
Right.
right? So in those scenarios, how do you break the mold of that? Like, how do you break that? Well, it's probably literal, actually do that. But what is your outtake or your position on that?
It's a big question, and I've seen it. Obviously, it becomes very evident. I don't know that you can fix that if you can't align the core values with the vision of the visionary. Uh, the company loses credibility, and we see that. And I won't
Mm.
name names of companies that are experiencing that right now on the
Right
global
now,
scale.
so right now,
Right
not
now.
not pointing out anybody on a global scale, just
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
um,
Big players that are
huge
going through
players,
these shifts of getting
right?
right with who they are. And today's internal customer, our employees, as well as our external customers are listening, and they can see the difference. They can see the gap. So if there is a misalignment, then let's get aligned. If this really is what you want to accomplish in this business, let's be truthful about that.
Hmm.
And it's okay if it's not necessarily what you think it should be to gain revenue.
Yes. Oh, there you go.
Be
Yeah.
true to what you really want to accomplish. And, again, I won't align myself with people that are not in alignment with my own core values. So
Right.
you have to be ethically, sound, etc. But there's just a lot of people that I think are confused about what they're trying to do and then messaging that properly. And so they get all wrapped up in trying to build it into recruiting or retention, and that could be internal or external customers, and the culture gets away from them.
They're not looking at the right
They're not
things,
looking at the right
or
things.
they know it, but they are avoiding it because they don't want to deal with it, right?
Typically, this part of the business is not something that business owners that are developing their business are really concerned about.
Mm,
If they do everything well, it kind of happens by
right.
osmosis. But when you're really trying to cultivate a culture and that's part of your vision, that alignment at the very beginning and then how that's messaged throughout the organization. And then, the building of ambassadors, we could spend another hour on this whole thing.
That's a big one.
It's a huge
Yeah,
one.
that's a big one. Your board of directors,
Yeah, yeah.
inside out. Some of them are free. It's the people that you lean on that'll give you advice that you need
Yeah.
to have.
Yes.
Yes. So that's inside out, paid or unpaid. People are always giving you perspective, and you just have to be able to listen.
That listening again.
Listen.
I know. Spot
Wow.
on.
Spot on. Come on, just listen, man.
Yeah.
Talking to you.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. So what's really next for you as you look at is it more clients or scaling your team? For Suzanne, what's that look like for you?
I know. And I've been putting on my visionary hat as well and really thinking about where
What
I
do you
want to
want?
this. Right? Well, one of the things about being in in the corporate world and in a large organization is the amount of time that you spend in it.
Hmm.
And so, I have a family that is a large part of my why. and I love spending time with them. And I have a COO hat that I have to wear in my own family.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to run there.
It's
I'm
your
in
other
the
business.
day to day.
That's your other business.
That's my other business.
That's right.
So I'm really enjoying being able to spend the time on that, and to give to the future, which is my family.
Yeah.
That legacy. And so that's all built into what I'm thinking. But I really could see building an organization of fractional workers that are able to do this, and we can do it together. We can go in and we can help companies, as a whole, and to continue to develop those relationships with other fractionals out in the industry. There's a lot of them. It's a whole thing. I didn't even realize how big it was.
Oh
but
yeah,
it's big and it's cool.
Oh, it's real big.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people out there, and they're all looking to really help other organizations.
Impact.
Yes.
Right.
And so how do we really do that together? So I also think that there's a need locally, which I've been working remote and across the country for quite some time. But I see, and again, I see new businesses popping up all the time. And, I'm probably not a startup partner, but I am that person a couple years down the line where they're ready to take the next step. And I'm sure that there's a lot of local companies that I could help and make an impact with.
Or companies that want to aggressively scale.
That too.
And so
there's
a couple components of that. There's sometimes startups are born from other companies. So then it's all the time. A lot of people don't realize that. They look at, hey, how did this company come out of nowhere and scale super fast? Well, because they have the right connections and the right people are feeding them what they need, not just financially, but through expertise. And they have the recipe already to implement. Exactly. They know how to cook it up.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a great way of putting it.
They already know. They know how to do it. Right. So, and that's kind of in a similar light, what you're doing on the fractional side. I'm similar in the same way of, I work with larger companies, but then I do have this passion for small businesses too. Like I think they get overlooked sometimes, and sometimes they have the ability to scale infinite. It's just they don't know how to do it, So part of it is, that's why we're kind of looking at how do you take these small, medium-sized businesses and shoot them to the moon? It's possible to do it. So I think that's really interesting because in my area of expertise, I'm more technical and some marketing,
totally.
I'm some biz ops. That's kind of my space too. But like, how do you take your C-suites from legal, financial, operations, all of those all the people you have to be in a small business as well. Like you are all of it.
Yeah.
And you are limited because you're not an expert at all of them. So it's okay to figure out like, hey, how do I take where I'm going right now to be able to hire a fractional C-suite person to come in? How do I identify as a small business of how do they get to the point of being ready to talk to you?
Yeah. I mean, and again, those pain points are really, really, they can feel it. So I'm working all the time. I have no time for my other passions. I can't even think about where I want to take this business because I'm in it. I'm every day in it. I'm in the grind. I don't understand what the best next step is. Should I, exit? Should I acquire? All these things, all these questions that need answers, and they don't have the time to think about it. So if they're in pain, high turnover, all those things, it all comes down to those three major components. It's vision. Is your vision clear? Are you clear? Are you in alignment? It's the people. Do you have the right people in the right seats?
Are you clear to the people around you?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Oh yeah. I mean, it's great. I talk about this all the time. If I went on and talked to your team and asked them what the revenue goal was for the year, would they be able to tell me?
Probably not, because it's secret sometimes. They don't want everyone knowing that.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever
it's something.
If it's your mission statement, let's take a mission statement.
Right.
Which should be shared throughout an organization. I can't tell you how many countless times I've talked to people on the front line and they have no clue what the company
Or
stands for, where they're
what
going.
does our company do?
I know, and be able to speak
And be able to,
powerfully about it.
like, are they passionate about it?
Yes.
Do they know?
Yeah, if you've got three people up on your leadership team or in your C-suite that know what's going on and the rest of the organization doesn't, you're not optimizing.
Right.
You're not going to get where you want to go. And so that people component, right? People, right seat, all really, really important. And then the execution. I talk about this all the time because this is really where people stumble. You can have all the right people, you can have all the right vision, marketing, everything's packaged. You're just in great shape. And nothing happens. The execution's not there. What gets in the way of that? What gets in the way of repeatable execution? Typically process. And so people don't have processes that they can follow
Consistently. Yep.
Yeah. And we really struggle with that. Right. Simple ones.
Yeah.
We make them really complicated.
We don't need to.
Look at that manual. That SOP manual. How many SOP manuals have you actually ever
just
looked
start
at?
Sometimes just start.
It's a playbook.
Pivot.
Yes.
Build the playbook as you go.
Yes, exactly.
Do it. Yeah.
You have to revisit it, tweak it,
yeah.
bring it up to speed.
When you start going off the tracks a little bit, you pull the book up. Oh, okay. Let me go back.
What do you need to do to be able to, repeatedly provide whatever product you're providing consistently? The way that your customer wants it to be delivered. Those are things that, surprisingly, a lot of companies miss.
And see, you're hitting a point. Who is the customer?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Wow. You got to identify, right?
Who is it?
Who is your
customer? And what do they want? Exactly. Not what you want.
Exactly. Oh, how many have we stumbled on that? Like just...
Hey, I've been there.
Totally. I'm not
totally been there.
From experience.
I get excited about stuff of like, hey, I want this. Then you'll put it out there and we don't understand that. Or sometimes the market is not ready for what you're offering or what you're providing.
Talk about all the time. We call it centralization in real estate. And that's really just taking process and automizing it, like just making it centralized and using technology to do it on a broader scale. And
engaging the culture of what society is ready for. And sometimes people aren't ready for innovation. And how do you prepare them for what's happening? How do you do that? So then that goes back to marketing and teaching and just educating people on what the value add is for them to move forward and innovate. And that happens within organizations too, right? Mm-hmm. We're looking at how do we educate everyone to say, hey, you don't know about this, so you're afraid of it. I'm afraid of change because I'm not used to doing anything different from what I have been taught to do for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Some people are stuck in that.
Yeah, it's painful.
And when you take them out and say, hey, there's a different way of doing this. And if you don't do it the right way, that's why like the book Traction, it can be implemented really well or really, really bad.
Really badly.
And when it's bad, it's bad. I've seen it go really bad.
Yes.
Yeah, like crumble. And, you have to be disciplined enough to say we have to still hear the people, but we have to educate them as well of why we're moving in the direction that we're going.
Totally. You bring up some really great
super
points.
Important.
Yeah. Some really, really important points. And I think that's where companies have missed.
Right.
A big one. Like if you really look at the customer journey, before you put the tech in.
Yeah.
Like, think about
know the process first.
Yes.
Yes.
How many times have we seen, and I've done it. I've put in, boy, that's a cool technology. I know this is going to make it so much easier. I'm going to put that in play. And then it is way more cumbersome.
Right.
Takes up more time.
Yes.
The customer's not happy with it.
I'm going to say this is probably going to be really bad for especially someone in tech that builds tech, but technology is useless if you don't know your process. If you don't have the process in play, there's no way you can innovate or automate anything if you don't have a sound process or a proof of what does not work in your current process.
Totally.
So a lot of the time we look at as we are solopreneurs or are creating new solutions, we say, well, we know this is what the market needs, but have we tested it through the process? What is the broken process? We can't build something that has not ever been done before unless we've actually manually understood what the process is.
Yes.
And that is like, I can't tell you how many millions of dollars you can waste by not understanding what you're trying to achieve or understanding why you're doing it. So that's one of the things you'll battle. Some of you companies out there, maybe even larger, you're looking at the buzz is we need to innovate. Why? Why? Because your competitors are innovating. Yeah, you see them scaling, but why are they scaling? They've identified a process, the secret recipe.
Mhm.
They know what they have been doing. They've documented the process.
Mhm.
They know the playbook, so they can go to the tech team or your agency to say, hey, this is our process. How can we streamline it?
Yes. Bingo.
If you don't have that, there's no way your tech company or whoever you hire, developers, they're not going to know that.
Oh, they're gonna
They're going
dartboard and
they're just
miss
going
the
to,
target.
well, they'll use the statement of work.
Yeah.
What do you want us to do? Okay, thanks. Why are we doing it? They don't care. This is just what you want us to do. But you have to understand the why you're doing it. So, and that's why you come to people like us
Yes.
that know the process, understand processes, and can ask you the questions. Why? Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we even talking? How do you want to be better? Why do you want to be better? It's huge.
Bingo.
Boom.
On
Yeah.
fire.
That's awesome. So, okay. So if someone wants to get in touch with you
Yes.
and they want to say, hey, I need Suzanne to change my business life and help me grow, how would they go about doing that?
Wow. And you just great lead into the name of the company, which is Here to Elevate. If you're
Boom.
here to elevate,
Let's go.
you can do that with me and all the great people I work with. You can get a hold of me on my website, which is www.here2, which is the number 2, elevate.com.
It'll be in the links below, obviously, right?
Awesome. Yeah. And LinkedIn is also another great place to find me, but my phone number is listed everywhere. So yeah, let's chat. I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks
it
for
was
having me.
fantastic.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Gotta do it again.
Yes. It's good to happen again.
Okay. All right. Good.
All right. We'll see you guys at the next show. Take care.